I've talked to both chiefs about this. I want to make sure our police department and our fire department are staffed as best as we can with the budget we have. I also want to make sure we have competitive pay. Competitive pay attracts, retains our staff, and gives us the best first responders we can possibly have, because at the end of the day, we're going to have at some point in time a situation that we're going to want our best, we're going to need our best, and that's when we depend on our first responders. So this is something that I believe is critical for the council to figure out, and for the staff to figure out how we make this in our budget. Also, further education is something that within our departments that is critical, because at the end of the day, we want to not only keep and retain, we want also further education so that way people can get more skills to keep us safer. And that's just something that I believe is critical. I do know we have challenges on this. Brian gave a great presentation about SB2 and how wonderful that is. Also, we look, it's going to be difficult to budget this. So I understand that completely. I just challenge the team to look at this and see what we can do to help our first responders out. I also look at public safety. We have a beautiful building coming. It's going to be in by, I believe, the end of this year. I would like to see our first responders hosting monthly CPR first aid for residents and putting something out for that, because like my wife and I, we had a newborn. We didn't really know what to do as far as CPR first aid. It'd be something great, I think, for the community, brings people into our new building, gets to show them who we are. So I think that's something that I would challenge everybody to figure out how we can make that happen. What do I see for the future for our public safety and our first responders? Looking into it, I'd like to see that we add strategic cameras in public places or city locations that we can monitor areas that have either high traffic, high accidents, or areas that potentially bring in high crime. With adding more and more people, we're going to see more and more things happen. And we've seen our adjacent cities share the same concern as well. Number two, I want to, after Mayor Pro Tem Holly Gray Moore gave a great presentation yesterday, is reinvestment back into our community. I understand that, it's going to be a challenge to pay for this, but I do believe we need to identify roads that have high traffic on them and bring them up to what Ranch House is. I think that's a great idea, and I challenge everybody to try to figure out and come together to see how we can identify those roads and how we can create a long-term plan, so that way people see that we are reinvesting back. If we are bringing in new money, we're putting it back, and a lot of people see it as roads. Number three, I'd like to see something that, and this would be an open dialogue, benefits to living in Willow Park. I'd like to see somewhere we post something that has water. This is what we've done, this is where we're at, and this is the future, a timeline. So that way anybody who looks at our website, anybody who looks at anything, can see exactly where we are and the timelines for execution. Other items on that is like, water treatment and, our radar tornado sirens. You've heard people talk about that. I think people want to know where we're at with the process. I think everybody can understand that government does move a little slow at times because there's a lot of hurdles we have to cover. I think it'd also be very transparent to show the timeline behind this. If anybody has any questions, I'll take them. Other than that, I really appreciate everything, and I appreciate everybody for being here, and I'm at 4:27. Thank you.
Well, I asked that I go last because I have a PowerPoint, and it's not set up.
Is it 5 minutes?
I'll make it 5 minutes. I won't go into all of it. Greg?
Okay, mine straightforward. I agree with everything that Mr. Contreras said, and main thing is I think a lot of challenges with roads, and I think we really need to have north-south concrete roads ASAP. And my goal, or what I think we need to do, is take Crown Road all the way up to White Settlement and all the way down to at least where it connects with Weatherford, and get that in concrete ASAP, and then figure out how to make that tie into Crown Point Boulevard or get it down to the interstate. The other major road that north-south we need to concrete ASAP, in my opinion, is Squaw Creek from Ranch House. Needs to tie into Kings Gate, in my opinion, somehow, and get it concrete and a new bridge on Kings Gate all the way to the interstate. Those are the two north-south, I think. We have those in place. People will tolerate some bad side roads if they only got to drive a couple of blocks to get to a good concrete road. So that's where I think we need to be on roads. As far as City Hall, you mentioned, I think we need to just buy a trailer and move it in next door for a while until we see what our sales tax situation looks like in a few years, and run with that. You mentioned the need for servers. I think, do we have options for cloud computing and do away with all that hardware? So just something to look at. Then as far as the waste treatment plant, we talked about, I don't know if we can bring this up, about just slightly moving it out of its current location, add parkland around it, and maximize the use and benefit of that corner for commercial purposes ASAP, in my opinion. So those are my major takeaways, and appreciate the focus on the 4 big projects. When you got here, I said focus on the 4: water, sewer, new public safety building, Ranch House Road. So good job getting, taking care of those. Appreciate all the staff doing that too. So.
Now I'm sorry, you talked about concrete. You're talking about Crown Point from Ranch House Road?
Yeah, you look at a map and you look at Crown Road all the way from White Settlement all the way down to where it makes that sharp turn to the right. Past your new house, I guess.
Lost for Carrots in there.
Yeah, wherever and figure out how to tie it into White Settlement. So we have White Settlement to the interstate, a good road all the way through, and then same with Squaw Creek from Ranch House. And I like to find if there's even a remote possibility of being able to tie it into Kings Gate, so there's a more direct route down to the interstate, and then concrete Kings Gate and replace the bridge.
Okay.
I just assumed that it was going to be set up. So, and I didn't know it was a 5-minute limit, and I thought it was going last, so just in defense.
By the way, what did I do it in? 3?
I didn't notice that this
Minimal
was set up
work.
this morning, so.
So you want Leah to go now?
Yeah, let Leah go.
Leah,
She said
I didn't know Leah was
that's
going.
okay.
That's
All
right.
right. I'm gonna let you just pass it down. Well, I'll give you this one. I have a whole long list of little picky things that a lot of it's been discussed. So I'm going to hit the highlights. So when you see my list, it's got priority. I don't want to interfere with their setup there. A, B, and C with some things in there. Wastewater treatment, that's just got to be the number one thing that we're working on this year. Staffing concerns with public safety, already discussed. We have to work on that. Getting together a good strategic plan with updating the capital improvement plan, the comprehensive plan. I'd like to see us contract out and get that redone. Parks master plan is almost complete, but all of those roll into a strategic plan. Also, I'm going to skip over and say stormwater management program. We have to get something in place for that so we can figure out funding to work on our drainage. All those other priorities of B's and C's, I'm not going to go through. Y'all can, it's a lot of stuff that we just work on daily at staff, I think. Parks, that's probably one of my big things. That's what I've been working on with the Parks Master Plan with Bernie. What I'd like to see is that we get a good concrete plan together for what we're going to do for playground equipment with the funding that we've already established. We get a plan for updating the demonstration gardens that are already in place, Memorial Park. As we finish that concrete of Ranch House Road, I think we can make that just a really beautiful area that our parks, we have signage, a lot of those things. I'd also like to see us put together a long-term plan that is not funded at this point, but we have a plan for what we want to do with trails. And some of the other things that are listed priority on that parks plan, I think we can get a plan in place, and I'm saying plan a lot, but work on that over the next year. These are all relatively short term, but that's very important. The last item I'm going to say that is important to me is to establish a really good policies and goals for our communication and how we are getting information out there. I'd love to see us fund a rework of the website. Get something possibly for even, yes,
Can I give you
Rose?
some feedback on that?
Okay.
Okay. So apparently through our contract that we have with Civic Live, we're actually due for a facelift coming up next year. So I am about to start conversations with them on that.
Okay, perfect. That's what I would like to see, is that we actually, now that we have a full-time staff member that is in charge of it, that we get some direction for how we're going to do communication, that we all have bought in to how much we want communicated, how that's done, when it's done, just a good plan in place, and get the web page such that it works better with our communication specialists. So it's very important to me. It's actually something my son is doing a project as we speak on whether or not the city of Willow Park does a good job communicating information through their website. So,
Oh, cool.
there you go.
There.
Unless we fail.
I don't want to see that report.
Yeah, actually, and he has spent time looking at a lot of other city websites, and that's part of what he's doing in his job at Dunaway, and said that you'd be surprised at how good ours is compared to a lot of other cities.
We
So-
have a lot of really good things going for us. It definitely needs some tweaks. I've actually got that I'm working on a comprehensive communications plan now.
Perfect.
And that's one of the major factors now.
That is, there we go. I'd like to see that that's still where we put our resources with Rose, that we come up with a good plan, and we give her the tools to implement that plan for this year. So.
I did have one thing I forgot to mention, is the side road rebuilds that, we have the county doing, none of them are holding up. I think we ought to suspend that, fix the worst places until we come up with something we know that's gonna work. So I don't think we waste any more money.
So real quick, this is gonna be kind of out of order, but everybody's covered, the things that I was interested in, communication, roads, parks. Drainage is a big thing for me because that's something I started whenever I came on. I really pushed that a lot, and so that's the only thing that I'd really like to have my hands in as far as CIP, because we've got the drainage report and things like that. What I want to talk to you about today
I'm
is
sorry, we have the spinning wheel of,
Spinning wheel.
Are you on the internet?
now it's USB, but it's just taking us there.
That's okay. I'm only going to use one slide. I don't have time for all of it, but this one slide is important. I know. That's why I wasn't even started. It's just that transportation projects presentation. So anyway, I want to speak about council, and I hope I don't tear up on this. Y'all know the past 2.5 years, really, I've been under a lot of attack. I've taken a lot of heat just for the city, and I don't say that to elevate myself or anything like that, but we haven't had a stable council. Since I've been on, we had 2 resign, and God rest his soul, we lost Norm, and we've had, Greg, and, Doyle and I have been the consistency that's been there. And I'm excited about the team that we have with our council now. Everybody has their strengths. Everybody has, different thoughts. I firmly believe that if everybody's thinking the same, then nobody's thinking. I specifically want to thank Greg for what he did during the campaign. I've had to fight a lot of misinformation. My campaign wound up really not being about me, but all the misinformation that had been out there and what have you. When I found out that I had a challenger, it wasn't that I was afraid of losing. It was the beating that I was going to take, that I was going to have to take, and I would not have been able to make it. I don't know that I would make it. And a huge thing that motivated, my motivation had nothing to do with me, because I was being beaten up. But I believe in what we're doing. I believe in this team, and I believe in the staff, and I wanted to protect that. That was my passion. It really was. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm looking forward to the things that we're going to be doing. And I can't tell you how much it means to me to have confidence and to have a team of that stability. So today, my biggest focus really is going to be I need to earn your confidence. I believe I've done enough to earn your respect. I respect you. What I'm going to be doing doesn't cost money. It's a minimal amount of money. But I just wanted to share with you briefly, give you an overview. I think the next slide is the one, or I thought it was the very first slide. This one. Okay, so transportation projects. Our, retail is in competition with Amazon. If it's not as easy as possible to get there, it's going to fail. It's not going to happen. And the couple of meetings that I went to in lobbying with Text 21, I'm good at it. I'm good at it. I came up with an idea to jockey Willow Park into the front and jockey us to be a pilot program. Text 21 is giving us priority because it's not an expensive project. It's not going to be a difficult project to do for TxDOT. And we will benefit. It doesn't matter if they pass this legislation to do this thought revenue program because we'll have it. We'll get it anyway, and because we can get it beforehand. I put this slide up here. I cut and pasted just a strip center right here where we're wanting to move these exits. In order to get priority for that, you got to be in front of people. This year, it's going to be looking at federal funding mainly, but then also getting in front of TxDOT. The more you get out in front of them, the more priority you get. So this is the only one I'm going to cover today because this would be my priority. And then our other transportation projects will still be in front of people. So the sources of funding, we're looking at federal innovation grants. I put this up here. We may have you do not share this information at all. There may be a school going in over here. There are a lot of different things. And if we can show the federal government, hey, we've got innovative things going on, we're more apt to get those projects. Private partnerships and pilot program. Process I'll share with you individually because I don't have enough time right now. Well, no, I do need to share that a bit. I said, getting in front of people as much as possible to network, go to RTC and TxDOT meetings regularly. I went to my first RTC meeting. Linda Harper Brown, she absolutely loves me. I met all the key people there. And so, but something that council needs from me, I want to get quarterly reports. The meetings that we're going to have will be quarterly meetings, and I believe that council should have that and our public should have that. With those reports, I'd like to get what our progress is, kind of an account of the meetings that I've had and the outcomes of those, and what our next steps are. This is a minimal amount of money. It's a passion that I have. It's something that I believe in, and I'm asking for your blessing. Because if I can't have your blessing and I can't have your confidence, I can't put time into this. Because it is time consuming. It's on my time. But I believe Willow Park, we've got to have it or we're not going to make it. Any questions? And if you want more specifics, give me a call. It's not going to be in violation of TOMA or anything of that nature. And there are a lot of specifics that Brian knows. I've spoken in length with Brian about it. We're fortunate to have Brian. He started us on this, took this first step toward the legislation. And I've got a different for it.
So will this warrant a separate meeting at some point, go into a little more detail and what all the impacts are, what we need to do?
Well, yeah, we probably don't want to get into the weeds on it right now, today.
Yeah.
But, yeah, when you're talking about a transportation project like what Amy's talking about in the bigger vision, and Amy and I have had this discussion, there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's not just one or two things. It's not a simple one yes and it's done. Transportation is probably the most trickiest thing you're going to get. You're going to do from a municipal standpoint. So yeah, I think it's safe to say we'll have an additional meeting and we will definitely have further conversations.
Yeah. I'm also bringing retail coaching on this. So it's going to give us priority with, we've got the data. It's just a matter of assembling it and marketing it. And I'm good at it. I believe it.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Well, if there's anything the chamber can help with that's on our public agenda is transportation.
Oh yeah, I'm going to come.
Gary? You're out next.
So I'll be quick. First, I want to thank council and staff, especially staff, for putting everything together. My top priorities are and will be infrastructure, roads, wastewater, water, and of course, public safety. Brian and the staff did an excellent job in identifying our needs, and we're working and will need to work for funding mechanisms to make them happen. That's always going to be a challenge. The priority, the immediate priority, I think, are the staffing for police and fire. I know the mayor promised Mike 3 bodies not too long ago. So that needs to be a priority, and we need to figure out the funding for that and how to make that happen. The other top item is something that Leah mentioned, communication. Right, a great public information officer. We just need to be consistent. I think some of the transparency comments that we received from the public is not so much as on the transparency side, because I can't see how we can be more transparent than we are. I think it's more of a consistency issue. We're not consistent enough. And with the website, you know, if we update the website and we have standard protocols in place as far as a communication plan, I think that'll go far and beyond what we need to do. And that's it.
He wins the prize.
You get a new set of steak knives there.
Get out.
I guarantee I won't take 5 minutes. What everybody said is great. I think these next 2 years in the city is going to be challenging, to say the least. I think we've got a great group. I'm excited about Brian and all the staff, and I think it's unique to have a city where there's not a lot of drama with staff, departments, and if there is, I don't hear it. So you guys are doing a good job of hiding it, but I just don't. And I think Lisa would say the same, because I've lived here since '06, and I remember Willow Park being in the papers. And it's like Holly said yesterday, it was embarrassing, some of the stuff that went on, and we've not been there. So, except for this last tirade this last week, and we're still addressing that, but that's another story. I think we're 3 years, I asked Brian, into this TCEQ for waste treatment. I think that's number one, an item we're going to have to deal with. And I think Brian has got some good ideas. I'm hopeful that we're going to meet in the next 2 or 3 weeks with Hudson Oaks. And there's part of Hudson Oaks that wants to partner with us and some doesn't. But if they do or they don't, it's something we're going to have to address and do. I think that's our top priority. Mm-hmm. Salary, police, and fire. It's I have a business, and I know what it is to need to budget something and add somebody and not have the funds to do it. It's an issue, and I guess that'd be my number 2 thing. And then roads. When I got elected, I heard people say that Willow Park is the only city they knew that had county roads, and it's true. From the north side on, it's all asphalt and roads, and I think we've done a tremendous job there. And $12 million over 20 years. That's a lot of money. And I heard Holly yesterday say Roanoke, how in time they've taken, every year they took something on. And I think that's something long-range plan we can do with growth coming in. We take roads as they come. We did Buena Vista a year or 2 ago, I guess. And it was much needed, because I went up and drove it, and it was, gosh almighty, it was bad. And we've got a few more, but I think moving forward with the growth we've got coming in, I don't know what this 3.5% is going to do to us, but I think in time, if we take it and systematically and let people know that roads is probably one of our top 5 things, I think we'll get that done. City Hall, that's my 4th thing. I know parks, and I know we're talking about a lot of stuff, but I think we need to look at the next year or so, City Hall. And it's, we've outgrown it, the staff, it's, I don't want to say deplorable conditions, but it's uncomfortable. I don't know what other word you'd use.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So I think with the city moving forward, the staff we have, I think is something, I really hope in the next 12 months we can give that a serious look. We've got 2 or 3 builders wanting to do something for us. And I think one in particular wants to work with us, make it manageable for us, something that we can do. So waste treatment, salaries, roads, and City Hall are my top 4. And I think the communication, and I agree with Gary, I don't know how we can be more transparent. I mean, I'm getting to where I hate the word transparent.
Me too.
I had a conversation with a citizen. Bernie tried to rescue me from her, but he didn't do a good job. Well, I was talking to her in front of City Hall, and a lot of you, everybody know who it is, and we were kind of bantering back and forth, and I looked at my phone, it was Bernie calling me. He was trying to get me away from her. But the 4 or 5 people that are not happy with what we're doing, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, one of the most critical people in the city is a client of mine. And Linda wants to call her and say, take your business somewhere else. And it's unfortunate, but it happens. I appreciate what everybody does, especially the council, giving of your time and the beating that Amy took. And I was worried about Linda going to jail for killing somebody. And if she had a carry permit, she probably could kill or would kill.
My husband would have been an accomplice.
But thankfully, I've got the gun permit, she doesn't. So, but thanks for everybody, what you do. Thanks, Lisa, for coming. We've got some time. We're going to prioritize these things, I think, and let's move forward and let's have a great let's do, if we can match what we did the last 2 years and the next 2 years, it'll be a very successful 2 years. And I think everybody's in it for the right reason, and I think we can move forward.
All right. Hey, for the record, you went over your 5 minutes, but I wasn't going to let the time go.
Brian said I had 6. He really didn't.
So what's the next step?
So the next step is this. I've been taking, and actually I wasn't just not blowing you guys off, I actually took almost everything y'all said word for word verbatim. I want to work through this list, so this is going to be a working portion of the meeting. I'm going to probably stand up so I can see everybody and y'all can all see me. And my lovely assistants over here are going to help write some of these things down that we have on here. And Lisa, feel free to kind of keep the conversation going because I'll bog it down if you want me to. Just feel free to hit me if you like.
I think Doyle.
So you got anything?
I will.
Yeah, he'll throw down nice.
I'll help him.
So while we're going through this, there was a common theme everyone mentioned. Every one of you guys mentioned this is one of your top priorities. Some, I think multiple was the first thing you led off with. And that was addressing the staffing needs of the fire department and PD. I think everybody, either the handout that you had, Gary's statement, Eric's statement, everyone wants to address that staffing issue with fire and PD. So let's put that on the board. This is the goal of this, Vanna. Eric, that's a joke about Wheel of Fortune.
You don't know Vanna though?
So, public safety staffing, and what we want to do is we want to kind of come through some of the things that I noticed y'all put on there If there's something that I missed, I apologize. I was trying to take everything down.
I done.
So public safety staffing is the first thing. And we won't talk price tag just yet. It's going to be part of the conversation, but it's not. The next thing that everybody mentioned to some extent was streets and roads improvement. And Greg was actually specific about what he wanted done. And I like that. The third thing that I saw on here was
Wastewater.
yes, thank you. Wastewater. So those are the three common things that all y'all. Now we all had some transportation things in there. We all had little individual pieces in there. But what I would like to say is, okay, if y'all can all agree that these are the three things that we can try to work on over the next fiscal year, for this next year.
Yes.
Okay. Right, I'll put a line underneath that. Now the fun part, straight line.
Next time, we'll get line paper.
Now, oh wait. Put one more on there, because everybody did mention this. The communications policy.
Already in the works and can't wait to share it.
I know.
But- Okay,
But
you think that was that an all
Yes.
6 people?
that was an all. It was at least 4 out of the 6. I think Amy alluded to it. I don't know if Eric. I think you
He
did.
was
too.
number 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm working on like 4 different pages of my word here. So that was your number 3. So a comms policy in place. We know what this looks like right here, right? We can tell you the price tag. I can tell you this is not a hard problem to solve. It's an expensive problem to solve. This is not a hard problem to solve. It's going to be an expensive problem to solve. This is going to be an easy problem to solve, and I can tell you how we'll do it. This last one, I want specifics from y'all. Because what I get, and then as I tell her, and as I tell Bernie, is that we want a better communications from staff. We want more communication, better communication. I think what we interpreted was flood it all out, let it all go. And that may not be the best way of doing it. So when you say you want a comms policy, we don't have to draft that today. But what are some of the things, what are some of the highlights that you want us to put into a comms policy?
So right off the bat,
Hold on, I want to take notes.
We've got it all on audio.
Oh, okay, cool.
so right off the bat is the structure of the policy, meaning what communication avenues are we going to take? For example, we have a website, okay? So we're going to post the good, bad, and ugly on the website, city website. What other social media are we going to authorize to post on, whether it be Twitter or Facebook? Are we going to have a city Facebook page? That kind of stuff. And that's what I meant by consistency.
Sure.
That whatever we put on the website, we're going to put everywhere else that we authorize. That's in our comm policy. So if we say we're just going to have a website and a Facebook page and a Twitter account, then that's all we do. Nobody gets on Nextdoor or anything else, right? So that way it's clear and concise to the public. These are your avenues
Sure,
to the
yeah.
city, right? And you can't be any more transparent than that.
Right. Well, and I think too, Gary, to that extent, we also need to consider non-social media users.
Yes.
I like what Leah mentioned about that. We actually have the capabilities that we're already paying for with our website for an opt-in email newsletter.
Right.
So that's another thing I'm exploring right now with our website company.
Well, and that would be, I would say developing the policy and
Yeah.
discussion about how frequently you do a Facebook post, or I would like to see a listing of every meeting is, in theory, posted 2 weeks before, like a standard, that any activities have a deadline that we get that information out there, either by email or whatever, that we have that as part of the policy.
Okay.
That after every city council meeting, any dates that were decided, 8 a.m. the next morning, it's on the calendar.
Okay.
Anything that was discussed, so that if you didn't watch the meeting, so putting that policy together, and I do think that's a longer term thing, but that's the level that I'm talking about.
Okay.
I've actually even, and I don't, this would be something that might not be popular, survey, like we did the park survey, have an ability through the communications department to get feedback from citizens on things that we want feedback on,
yeah.
decisions that we want extra feedback. So again, that's a communications policy that I think we may not all be in agreement, but let's put some ideas together
Sure,
and
yeah.
then argue it out for a policy.
I'd like to see us do one thing, communication, and do it well. I don't know, and I'm trying to remember, Holly yesterday said they had one, did they have the one Facebook page or the one website?
They had a
One
Facebook page,
Facebook.
website, and Twitter.
Yeah, and that's, most cities are Facebook, website, Twitter. We have a tiny Twitter following, and I do not see a lot of our citizens actively using Twitter, so I have not utilized our Twitter account as fully as I have our Facebook. I've spent the past 6 months really digging into our Facebook and analyzing our analytics, where posts being shared, who's looking at what's getting the most attention, so Facebook has kind of been my concentration for now. Obviously, if you guys are interested in exploring other social media channels, I'd be happy to look into them. I really think that Facebook and our website are our most.
I think so too. The report you put out on Friday afternoon, is that on our website?
It is not, but it should have been.
Yes, I agree.
I think that's every Friday, that's a drip, that's something, that should be on our website.
The AAR?
Yes.
And something to add to that would be
What?
our water production. You know, on the AAR, what our water was that week, because you get that report anyway.
Okay, so add that to the.
Add that to
Okay,
AAR.
okay,
and-
okay.
and you
Okay.
add-
I think that goes into when we establish the policy.
Yeah, well, I just I just wanted to
that's-
mention
'cause
that.
What I'm hearing here is we're going to establish the platform. What's our
Yes,
platform?
yes,
And then we're going to do where, who, and what. I mean, that's what we're doing.
yeah, I mean, we're
And
just
then
sharing.
you deal with that component, and then you just simplify that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you disperse or disseminate your information. So
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, is platform, and then where you're going to disseminate information,
Mm-hmm.
and then how often. So.
And I know you don't like to hear it, but Nextdoor has a public information section. And from what I understand, you can not have the public post on it. You can just put on there your information and let it run, so.
So when I was at Tamio, we actually had a session with Nextdoor Corporate.
Mhm.
The only cities that have found any type of effective results using Nextdoor are large cities such as Dallas that use Nextdoor to target individualized communities.
Uh-huh.
Smaller cities have not found Nextdoor to be an effective use of their time. And
Okay.
there's data to back that up.
Yeah.
And to bring up next door, right? So that should be part of our policy is, you know, you're going to get comments on, you know, positive and negative comments on social media, right? So is it going to be our rule that no one responds to comments? Or are we going to comment, you know?
That's going to be in our policy.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah.
And we absolutely need to
yeah,
have a
specific.
policy that
Yeah,
addresses that.
yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask something?
Sure, absolutely.
Is there something in place currently right now that when there is a complaint posted on a social media site that whoever, whatever council member is in that area, y'all go personally to that house
So,
and confront them as far as talk to them and ask them and hey, what's going on?
Not after I was
It's
yelled at.
dangerous.
in the-
I think that's
It's gonna be
dangerous.
It is dangerous.
I agree.
I ran into
I do not
that
recommend
twice.
Well, I think that's, you're, no.
Hudson Oaks does that.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have, they're very taxed.
here's the thing.
Well, they don't have
First of all,
any
they don't
laws that
have,
probably that.
1,000 people.
Yeah.
we don't have districts or wards.
Oh, okay.
So, literally, these two people live next door to each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And the majority of next door is not even in Willow Park.
Well, I got kicked off of it, so.
I wish I could.
Yes,
Hey, how did
So-
you manage that?
Where was Brad Javon?
So I'd like to add something. In my industry, we typically get 2 reports a week. One is on a Friday, how to plan your next week. So whether that be construction projects, rehab projects, whatever we're doing, we put out on Friday at some point in time before the end of business what's going on next week so people can plan. And I think that's critical. And then also gets in front of people of what we're doing.
I like that.
Now, the second thing is, what did we do last week? You know, here was our plan. what did we actually accomplish? So you have a kind of a Monday morning or Monday at some point in time, you do your progress report. Here was everything we wanted to do last week. Here's actually what was done. And now here's how our calendar is changing. So that way you're in front of everybody. Everybody can see, hey, you know what? It rained 5 days last week. We didn't get anything done because of that on all these different things. So that's why people can sit there and go, you know, this road, it was supposed to be 6 weeks, but it took 3 years. Why? Well, guess what? We can go back and we can look exactly at what happened.
And I don't remember which one of you was talking about timelines on the website. I'm sorry, Erica.
Yes.
Please continue.
And the other thing is what are some of the other big projects that come up and that we really don't have very much planning and we don't really get too much lead time on that? Post something about that immediately to say, hey, this is coming in. This is going to be happening on X dates, and just kind of have things that aren't in our plan and you know, moving forward so people can plan for that is just kind of having a daily reminder, hey, this came up outside of, you know, planning on Friday for the following next week. It's going to be happening on Thursday. You know, we get word Monday that this is going to happen. Like, we have to fix a leak somewhere. So that way everybody can understand, hey, guess what? Your water's going to get turned off between probably the hours of 8 and 2 because of this. And that way they can't just say, hey, I only got one morning the morning of. Guess what? As soon as we identify the problem, you got 3 days of notifications on this.
Well,
what's going to happen.
As far as part of that, some of these public work, a great deal of these public work issues that we come up with, we don't have 3 days notice.
Right.
We have 3 minutes notice.
Right.
Which is why we need to get more effective with things like our push-out notifications and our social media notifications, which we're working on that. I've identified where we're lacking and what's dragging us down on some of those. I'm looking at some solutions. I don't have a solution yet, but I think I will soon.
Well, I think as far as we're doing public service announcement, and what's PSA and what's info, right? And so we deal with long-term, short-term, and current. So we are, as a staff, looking at, from my department, I know we've had communications of saying, here's, you know, projects that are going on, new businesses that are coming in town. You got Starbucks coming, you've got X coming, that I know we're moving dirt and I know it's coming in. That we're going to do stuff like that, capital improvement. We'll put stuff out there that's going on, water line replacements, et cetera, et cetera. I think you have to look at it, and it's a fine line where you have information overload, and then you have, you know, you just don't want it to be, I can't go there because I can't find anything. So it's just, and that's more what staff will come back and give you a recommendation, and we're hearing what you want. It's just, the thing is, I think what's happened with our communication is splintered, and everything's going out, and maybe we'll hit this, maybe we'll hit that. We do put it out there, but the number one thing we hear is consistency, and that's what we're going to go ahead and do.
Right. And you know, when you're talking about planning your next week, you have maybe water projects, electrical projects, you know, waste management projects, you know, drainage projects. What we have on there, we have none this week. We might have 3 or 4 this week. That's why we're sending all of our resources to this location.
What we could do, and I just made a note of this, is we do the AAR every Friday, and y'all all get that. And I think we just keep that in-house. I think if we put it on the website, if we put it on Facebook, if we made it more public.
Expand it a little bit.
But what we can do is we can add, to your point, we produced on average, I don't want to give daily averages, but on average.
Well, on average, just
on
the
average
weekly
for this
average,
week, we produced
Yeah,
million
that's
gallons
your
of water,
biggest,
right?
yeah.
We can add that to it. We can also do a look ahead. These are the things that we expect to do as of Friday morning.
Right.
We expect to do these things Monday through whatever. With the caveat that y'all understand.
Things always change.
If I may just speak to that point, just from experience, I think we keep the broad plans and like the CIP and the things that, you know, our goal. But as far as putting on there on a week, you know, here's what we plan on accomplishing this week. Once you write it down, they think it's a promise, and they don't care that it's rained out. I mean, it just, and they'll go, look, they said this many things, they only got this much done.
I think it's possible to find the middle ground though.
Right.
Yeah, but just like Holly said, under promise, over deliver.
I think we can hash that out in the communications. I would say 2 weeks based on council meetings.
The main thing that, as far as my goal on a communications policy, is we need to, people need to know where to look for their information and what kind of information to expect. And that's just going to take time and consistency.
Right.
I think us having a policy that we're very public about will help people with that. I love the feedback that I got from you guys, and I can't wait to come back and kind of nail the finer points of those down.
And may I speak to one thing that wasn't mentioned for social media or pushing out? You know, we don't necessarily have a budget for marketing, but if we can push out like the feel-good stuff and pictures and stuff like that, and that would be like on our Facebook.
We discussed that in our.
Well, I know, I'm just
That's
mentioning
part
that,
of
so that's something that she would have for us.
I will say this, and just an overview of McComm's policy, is the one thing, the common theme I've heard from everybody is consistency.
Yes.
That's going to require us to be less reactive and
Yes.
more proactive.
Amen.
I spend a
Amen.
lot of time putting out fires that I could be developing
Yes.
consistently.
Well, that's my
Amen.
complaint, right? So we almost spent one full-time equivalent, right, on just freedom of information requests, right? And we have to let the public know that that is ridiculous, right? We should not be spending one full staff member, because we only have X amount of staff members
One.
on freedom of
One.
information
We have
requests
one.
for one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that Monday, we're doing training on the new software, and at that point, we'll not only be able to track exactly who's doing what and how we're responding, but that will go on the website. When you go to the website and you pull up information request, it's going to tell you who requested it and what they requested and how long it took staff to produce
Good.
it.
And whenever we're on top of the message and we're proactive, then we control the message.
Yeah, you'll react less once we.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
control
And that's-
the narrative.
And again, going back to that, I think if when we develop the policy, we
Yeah.
make it a proactive
It's gonna be
thing.
awesome.
What's happening now is someone says something, that they're throwing a flamethrower on next door, and I'll just take what happened this week, right? There's a great article, someone called it a hit piece in the community news about this session. All right, by 6 o'clock or 6:30, I'm getting text messages, not from y'all, but from citizens about it. And so that was not what we had planned for Thursday, but that's what Thursday morning became about. And we spent 4 hours.
However, we could have spent 30 minutes putting something out a week or two before,
Yes.
and then that information would have been there and we wouldn't have had to
Right.
react.
And if we had a
So-
policy that said, when we have this, this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we all learned some valuable lessons this week.
Yeah.
It was a learning experience for
That
everybody.
information has been discussed for a year, is in the budget.
Well, some of it
Yes.
now at the end,
Yes,
the
it
way.
was.
But I got to tell you,
It wasn't
Doyle,
discussed.
as a reporter, I sat in y'all's budget meetings last year, and this wasn't even on my radar.
Right.
Which means the public definitely didn't pick up on
Well-
it. Now, that being said, the information was out there if somebody cared to go look at it. But we as a city have to consider that the optics on this are going to be bad if we don't push it out first.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between being proactive versus reactive. If we're pushing it out first, then nobody can say we were trying to hide it. So that's why we need to have those things in place in the policy.
And being sensitive as to how we say it, because at first they heard of it, Possum Kingdom, $10,000. Why aren't we doing Possum Kingdom? We have the money. That's all anybody zeroed in on. Because they didn't, but those are things that
I agree.
we in-house, we get, but
This is a learning experience.
yes.
I mean, really.
And I think we really have, I'm optimistic on.
Yeah.
Do all cities have to deal with this BS?
No,
Yes.
no, not like
To an
this.
extent,
Yes.
but we're particularly
Bless.
hysterical.
Vulnerable to it.
All
yes.
right, so we agree, communication.
We have opportunity.
Yes.
Yes.
Opportunities to
We
learn.
have opportunities to be great.
I glazed over yesterday.
So we're good with these 4 things.
Yep.
Yes. These are deliverables. Right here.
So everybody plays the lottery so we can pay for the other 3.
Well, okay, I'm gonna say, just on the streets, that's really broad.
Yes.
If we want a smart, that's really broad, you know. I mean, I know we need to work through some things, but do we need to discuss that and get that down a little bit more?
Do you want, so let's we can broach that for a little bit.
Okay,
So streets, by the way, and not to harp on yesterday, this and this right here, all are impacted by SB2. Both of them.
right, because it's coming up.
Yeah, when you look at your budget, those are both general fund, and the communications policy is too, but those are the two big general fund issues. General fund is, yeah, currently it's
Well,
taxes.
street improvements, we got plans, we got things that we're gonna bring and talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Currently, as of today, yes.
It is, and that's what I'm about to bring up actually. is there's a different way of paying for this right here specifically. And I don't want to get too much into sales tax, but we are allowed 2% sales tax. So when I tell you that we got 1.2 in sales tax last year, that's actually only 1% of what we get. That goes into the general fund. The additional 1% is split two ways. One goes to us for property tax reduction. It buys down our rate. Right now that number would be about, that split would be about $250,000. Excuse me, $500,000. Excuse me, $500,000. The other half of that 1% goes to Parker County, and we never see it. $500,000. So you change that, the voters have to approve it. And from the Parker County side, all voters in Parker County have to approve that. The benefits of Willow Park, let's just assume that there was a vote to be held, the vote passed, and now the cities get that 1% back, or that 0.5% back. I can put $500,000 in today's dollars, and as our sales tax grows, that number gets bigger. I can put $500,000 a year into street improvements. Now, that sounds like a lot.
That's not.
If you look in your CIP, if you want to do Sandbass Trail, is it Sandbass Court? Sandbass Court and Old Ford, the price tag on that is $550,000. Right now, to do one block of reconstruction is about $100,000. So when we put $100,000 into the budget, you're getting one block, essentially. Streets are going to be a big, big challenge for us.
So, go ahead, Mayor.
Did somebody say, was it Leah that said we had a priority of the streets that need to be done, or somebody said that, I think?
Yeah,
Right, it's right here.
Yeah.
It was.
Pavement conditioning index.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Anybody?
31.
Y'all two can't answer, and if you know the answer. Anybody know how many miles of streets we have to maintain in Willow? You can't answer. Lisa, you want to guess how many miles of streets we have?
323.
I have no idea.
Lord,
You're closer than I was.
I have no idea.
40.
75 miles of streets to maintain.
Well, then what's the problem?
Lisa's paying for the street.
Case closed.
We're getting some chamber dues back.
Your dues
Now,
are going up.
I will say within that 75 miles, and I will say this with respect to street improvements, we're not fixing potholes in Bernie's neighborhood. Why? Because there's no potholes in Bernie's neighborhood. It's concrete. It's concrete. You're not going to be fixing potholes in my neighborhood. Why? It's concrete. We're not fixing potholes in their neighborhoods. Why? We don't know the street. But my point being is, as new development comes in and we have concrete standards, as we require with development, that horrible word that people hate, that's less long-term liability we have on street repair. So most of our street dollars are going to Sandbass and North. And I would sit there and say that's where some of our more seasoned residents live. Some of the veterans, if you will, of Willow Park.
Who look down on us.
I'm not going to get into that. But the point being is that you can this is how you put your development dollars back into use for them.
Yeah.
It's fixing Cactus, Old Ford. I can just go down the list. Was that one subdivision, that little cul-de-sac by you, not Sandbass Court? Is it Trinity?
Trinity Court.
Yeah, Trinity Court. Another one that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, but you also, along those roads, that line when you're talking about those roads, those concrete roads have a life expectancy as well. And we're actually about a third in on some of these. So it may not be this council, but that is something that concrete roads don't last forever.
So, Saddle Ridge?
That development. yeah.
The one y'all come out of?
Yeah, Saddle Ridge.
Saddle Ridge. It's got 10 years in, probably on a 30-year lifespan. So you're about 30.
We're not far away from having to look at those. you know.
Yeah. So to do.
Yeah.
And again, all of these things it's one of those deals where you're just going, oh my gosh, how are we eating this? We got a big elephant, and you just eat it one bite at a time. But somebody's got to, we got to sit there and figure out how to allocate the funds. Real quick on public safety and staffing, I've talked to these two chiefs. We're going to have some more conversations about how we're going to have to do this. It's a math problem. You'll hear me say that again and again and again. It's a simple math problem. And we're going to have to figure that out. We're going to get creative with some salaries when we see the budget. I don't expect a massive line item transfer of water over to sewer, but we may move some expenses from general fund, legitimate expenses from general fund over. We also mentioned the stormwater drainage fee. On July 23rd at the next meeting, you're going to be asked to fund 2 drainage projects. You know how much money you had budgeted for drainage last year? Bupkis. You know what your revenue stream for drainage is? Property taxes. So for every drainage project you do, you're taking money out of their pockets for staff and salary. So we got to find a revenue stream for that. And we can take care of the 2 things you're going to see in July, but when you move forward with it, we've got to find more. We got to find a more consistent method of doing that.
So are we kind of summing up that these are our...
Are y'all okay with it? I thought we'd have more a broad swath of topics, but y'all seem to, those seem to be the 3 to 4 things y'all have focused on.
You get more than that and you're not going to be focused.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to throw this out there because they're just the things that we haven't listed.
Okay.
First, oddly enough, the retail development that we discussed with Aaron yesterday, and I think it was just covered so well that we didn't discuss it, but is that a goal for our council that we bring in a retail developer?
I think that 380 that we did.
That...
So you mean like somebody in addition to Aaron or?
No, that is our goal, is to complete that.
Okay.
To get a developer in within the next year to 2
Got it,
years.
okay.
Yeah.
I see
That's
that-
one of
I
our
see that.
strategic visions.
I see that as economic development.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
do, but
good,
is that
yeah.
one of our priorities as council? I kind of think we're just saying, check the box, we've already decided it, and not putting it in what we're saying, and I'm just saying,
I like if we're,
do we
here's
want to
the
repeat it as our goal?
Yes.
Because like strategic, you're looking in short-term, long-term. So that's our short-term goal, right, is to get that developer in. But if we're going to look at it as far as a guiding principle, I feel that it needs to be economic development. You're going to
Yeah.
get.
Oh, you're just saying, make the
Yeah.
goal, make it broader.
economic.
Okay,
Yeah.
So then
rename
that,
it,
yes.
absolutely.
So you look at economic development and then you.
Continue on the
Yes.
path of economic.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, make it one of our
That's,
strategic
yeah,
goals.
that's
But no,
true.
I'm saying add that.
But I actually agree with you that we added, one of the strategic goals is we have a developer secured within the next 6 months. It's a deliverable.
Right, but it is
But-
part of our goal, because right now, economic development's not part of our goal.
Yeah,
If-
no,
that's
because
what-
here's the other thing, we talked about it, he said it,
Right.
Holly said it yesterday, I'm saying it today.
Right.
Development is what's going to help offset all of these costs here.
I just want to make it clear that it
Yeah,
is
right.
the goal of this council.
And honestly, I love going back and telling Aaron, and I think there was a little bit of mutual respect of not, stepping on toes yesterday or whatever. I love going back with Aaron and saying, council came out of this thing and we need to have a developer secured within the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. I just didn't want the stuff that we all agreed on to get forgotten.
Exactly. 'Cause
Right.
what I heard yesterday from Aaron was, we're ready, we've got everything in place, we've got the incomes, we got the rooftops, we got everything. We're working on where is Willow Park, and that's just going to take time. But all the metrics are there for successful development. We just got to go get it. And with all due respect, there's a couple of things on there that he was pursuing that I'm like, that doesn't really do anything for me. That doesn't move the needle. But
You just need to tell him, we want something for our money.
that's okay. You're saying it a lot better than I am. Politician diplomacy.
The difference, what you're seeing up there too, what you're looking at, you really got 2 items: quality of life and infrastructure. Streets improvement, wastewater are the same thing. Public safety, it is quality of life. I mean, and that could be, you can translate that into parks. You can translate that. You have so many subgroups. It's just something you're interested in. Quality of life items, which is public safety. I mean, you have more police officers, people feel more safe. You have more firefighters, people feel more safe. Now, we can get into the nuts and bolts, and chiefs will tell you that. But as far as the groups, we really look for, we only have, and then communication is just, we're just cleaning house, that's housekeeping for staff. But it looks like we're just dealing with 2 items. Would you agree?
I would think, yeah. Economic.
Yeah. And the economic development you have 3 now. So
Yeah.
you have economic development, quality of life, and infrastructure.
And I think with our growth, and I'm thinking of staff here, and I don't know if it goes in safety staffing or what, we've got to be looking at a new city hall.
I was gonna hit
Yeah.
the ones that we haven't
And
mentioned.
if we make it number 6 or something, but I think that's another 12-month, something we need to address, because, I mean, some of these people, and I think it affects your work, I think it affects your quality of work, I think it affects your quality and everything.
Also, the perception of a citizen as somebody coming into your
Yes.
area.
And that's
And
exactly-
improving our reputation and,
And that's why when we did the concrete thing, I was so adamant on it. We've got Ben Hogan building a 1.2 million facility at Squaw Creek. And I just didn't want people coming off of 20 going into a county road to a golf course.
I just wanted to do it the right way.
Doing an asphalt road to a $1.2 million facility. And now we're going to have concrete, it'll be nice. So I think City Hall has got to be, I mean, good grief, they're all important, but I think it needs to be maybe not in the 6 month for the developer, but maybe in the 9 month or 12 month. We start thinking about it.
And I go back to that, to your point of trying to attract a developer. With De La Vega, they're going to come out. I mean, when they come out, this was the pitch that was made to a barbecue restaurant 2 months ago. Hey, they gave us about a week notice. We're going to come out and see you guys. Okay. We have the folding tables that I use for my backyard barbecue as our meeting table.
Folding chairs.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the chairs we take from the council. Yeah. We set them up around the room, and we're trying to get them to invest into our community. We're trying to get them to bring millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of investment into our community. And we've got a $40 table.
I'm telling you, it's
I understand back there and back then, and to a lot of people, that's a good conference table. But there's just something to be said about walking into the building and saying, when you walk into Hudson Oaks, you know you're walking into a professional office.
So one thing I wanted to point out, right, and this was before most of our time, right, is, making correct funding decisions. Right? When they did the bond for the public safety building, right, they should have upped the ante a little bit and put,
Yes.
City Hall in there, and we would call it City Center, right? And I understand some of the reasoning behind why they didn't, but that's part of our job, is when we run into a problem, communication goes both ways. We communicate from the public's feelings to staff, but also we communicate what staff needs to the public to sell it. And that should have been sold, because that would have saved a lot of money going forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
there's a lot of things that should have been done.
There's-
to save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And in our future decisions, we need to make sure we take into account everything.
I think we're doing that.
is there any other?
No, just about the meeting.
Sure.
Y'all are welcome to use the chamber conference room. We accommodate 13, we have full AV equipment, a full catering kitchen, we can handle it.
But-
Because of Mayor Moss, when he was chairman of the board, and he said our furniture looked like crap, we all have room. It must be trimmed.
I got jumped for that.
I know you did.
Along the lines of Bernie speaking to, I'm just thinking of getting this worded, and we may be running out of time with perfect wording, but along the lines of quality of life versus I'm going to float this idea of, instead of communications, City Hall, and we don't have parks in there, something along the lines of our goal is to improve the appearance and perception of the city through communications, parks.
Yes.
And then that's one big goal, but it's improving, it takes those 3 and makes them kind of subcategories with one goal of let's improve the appearance and perception of the city.
Very good.
Communications will help the perception, That's what we're gonna improve there, but then the appearance through parks and potential city hall as a goal.
Leah, too, that I like where you're going with this. I think what we could do is kind of, because I want to do a write-up about this after we're done, so we can be very transparent. I think if we make this the overreaching goal, and then break it down into more specific goals like infrastructure, this is what we want to do for infrastructure. Quality of life, here's what we want to do for quality of life. And kind of give it an outline form. I like that, and I think that'd be a good way to present it.
Well, I think as far as when you're talking about beautification, is what and it kind of falls. Quality of life, parks.
Well, I can't be everywhere
And
at
then,
one time.
and, yeah. So yeah, Daniel, what you did? Have beautification.
shook my head.
Have beautification, and I think that too ties into with economic development. But one thing we didn't talk about that we're going to come back and do with you guys is south of 20. I mean, looking to do some type of a streetscape. I know the mayor and I and Brian, we talked about doing some type of improvement there at that intersection of Ranch House Road and 20. Can we put flowers up there? Can we do this? Can we clean it up? But see, the first thing, what did I say? It doesn't matter. No, but the first step is, I mean, and it's like, and this isn't the thing is we got to address the pigeons that are there. We got to address the leakage that's coming, this tech spot that the water's coming out and making a permanent. And so we are talking with them when we're dealing with that. I mean, and tech spot's going to come in and fix it, and we're not going to pay for anything out of that. We're looking at going on the south side of our businesses that we're railhead and improving that. Can we put sidewalks in? Can we put street lights in? So that's a beautification. I think that addresses improving the appearance of that. So these are things we're going to come back and talk with you. And we've got different ways of funding it, but it's going to address it. I don't think nobody's ever really talked about before. So.
Any final thoughts from council?
I know.
Amy, Eric, Greg?
No, I'll just reiterate, I don't know if everybody heard it, but time and time again, we've shown that the asphalt roads are just not holding up. The things we put in recently are not holding up. And in my opinion, we need to suspend that and just go to patchwork fixing. That's why I'm saying we need 2 major roads through the city to get everybody on and mitigate that problem. I think we're wasting money there.
And your ladder truck's going to mulch up a lot of that too.
I will make one comment that I'm pleased to see. A lot of this is new council. That improved perception and appearance of the city, that was one of my top things in the budget when I first came on. And it was one of the first things that got cut, But I'm glad to see that this council wants to see that now. So I'm very pleased with that, to see that that's a shared vision now.
Okay. Mayor, you got any final thoughts?
I think the perception of the county, and I think Lisa can allude to this. We were at lunch at Charlie Gilchrist came up to us and complimented on us the job we're doing. I think around the county, people are seeing Willow Park
Oh, yeah.
and they're excited.
Yeah.
We've got 5 or 6 K people that will always be that way. But I'm proud of what we're doing. I don't, and I remember Bobby Roundtree, when I ran the first time, he said, never make a decision that you can't defend. I think everything we've done, I can defend. I will defend. So I think we keep moving forward, and I think we've got a great start on the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So here's our marching orders. We're going to focus on these 4 things as a staff when we come back. These are the things that we're going to do. This will be, I'm going to throw this back up there as well because that's kind of a 3 to 6 month goal. These are more long-term, long vision, strategic things if you want to talk, if you want to throw that in there.
That's 2021.
Yeah, but we can start you can start priming the pump for that as well.
Conversation.
Well, we got the funding.
But when we come back, this is when we have our staff meeting Monday or Tuesday, probably Tuesday, this is what we're going to talk about right here. And that's what we're going to come out with. And so when we start working on budget, hopefully, you'll see some of these aspects, knowing we're not going to put $12 million in the budget to go do streets. Although I'd like to just get it done. But that's not possible. So this is what we're doing. This is what I wanted to come out of here with. This is why I wanted to do this, because what we've heard is a lot of common ground on some things, and we've heard some good suggestions on others, and we're going to take action on that. We're about one step ahead of you already on the street thing with the county. But that's what we wanted to see as a staff. Especially, this is the part I'm the most excited about. I don't know if you saw it. You can't see each other's faces. I wish you could have. Because the minute we start talking about this, every single one of you, your eyes lit up. Like Doyle hitting a hole in one.
Doesn't happen. Go ahead.
That's what we're going to do forward as a staff. I do appreciate your time. I know that the mayor said this the other day. You're taken away from tennis, you're taken away from time with your families. But I do appreciate you coming out there. I know from a staff standpoint, we got a lot out of it. I hope y'all as a council got a lot out of it. And I think at the end of the day, this is going to go serve the public well. Rosa's going to have a write-up about it. We're probably going to put it out there and probably have some follow-up questions to it from some media outlets. We'll take care of that as it comes. But Mr. Mayor, I am getting you out of here. 4 minutes. You had a question?
I just want to say something. I know y'all joked about me being a citizen. I leave it to Gary for the politics, and my intent was to come and go shopping while y'all did this today. After sitting here waiting for it to open and hearing everything, I really became interested in seeing how this process works. And I hope you'll put that in the markup, that they need to see how y'all work together. It's very impressive. And this was very productive, and I just want to say kudos to all you guys. So.
Very good.
Thank you.
We need to get a group picture. Yeah, we need a group picture.
Are we adjourned?
Yeah, let's do it outside.